Welcome to Breaking Battlegrounds. I'm your host, Chuck Warren, with Kiley Campbell in studio. Sam is out today. Our first guest, John Reid, running for Lieutenant Governor of Virginia, the great state of Virginia, which it's interesting, John, thanks for coming on the show, that you've had such a successful governorship the past 4 years of Glenn Youngkin, and Virginians are thinking about going back to the ways of the past, and Youngkin's approval ratings are pretty good. What's going on out there?
Yeah, Virginia has long been kind of a purple state. We go back and forth over who's going to run things. I agree with you. Glenn Youngkin's had a pretty successful 4-year run. He's brought in a lot of new business, a lot of new jobs. He has managed to avoid some of the ugly political fights that might have been polarizing. And I do think a lot of Virginians are tired of that. You got a group of people up in Northern Virginia, though, who are bureaucrats in the federal government, no disrespect intended, but they are disinclined to be supportive of President Trump, which is why Kamala Harris wound up winning Virginia last year. And I think they are angry with President Trump and, may try to hold us accountable. It's been one of the things I've talked about the months that I've been campaigning is, I'm not going to argue with you about President Trump. I'm here to bring jobs to Virginia. I'm here to bring stability and reasonable thought. And let's not turn this state over to the radicals who've kind of hijacked the modern Democrat Party.
So you're running against a state senator who's running for lieutenant governor who refuses to debate you. So you had to be creative, as all great radio podcast broadcasters have to be. And you did an AI debate with her actual quotes and comments. And I love that her response was, well, you didn't get my permission. It wasn't that you said anything that's not right. It's just you didn't have my permission. She's trying to do the trademark route. Tell us about how that idea, on how it came to pass.
Well, I'm glad you noticed the distinction in the response because, I had to hire a guy to come in and produce the debate because she, for 125 days, refused every invitation to debate. Even National Public Radio, NPR in D.C., offered to host a debate between the two of us, and she refused. I mean, how much more could I rig it in her favor? I agreed to go to National Public Radio because I'm confident in my positions, and I knew they'd beat me up a little bit, but that's part of the deal if you're running for statewide office. So I hired this guy to produce the artificial intelligence debate, and I told him, I said, I don't want this to be a Saturday Night Live skit. I don't want it to be a hatchet job where we find the dumbest thing someone's ever said and we beat them up for that. Let's make sure that these are documented quotes, that they accurately reflect her positions, which I think are foolish positions and discredited positions, but let's not make anything up. We don't have to. And then I'll come in to the studio, no rehearsal, no teleprompter, no script, and I will just respond to the same questions and to her as if it's a real debate. And if people check it out, I thought we did a pretty good job. I was in television and radio, and my mind still works like a journalist. I'm not interested in being unfair to people. So I think I acquitted myself pretty well, especially with no preparation. And I think we were fair to her. And their response that it was some sort of gimmick, well, I mean, maybe it was a gimmick. You wouldn't show up in real life, lady. What do you want me to do? Not have a debate? The people of Virginia deserve to hear from the candidates.
Isn't it frustrating that the media that covers the Virginia political races do not bring up the fact that she's running for cover and refuses to debate? I mean, I think a debate is a very fundamental process of a campaign. And I really feel like if you don't want to debate, you probably shouldn't be running for office. I have felt that for all races. Has the press pressed her on this at all and said, hey, get out there and debate this man? Nothing. They just give her free.
No, and it is, as a former television reporter and radio commentator in this market, in the state capitol, I have to say I'm disappointed in my former colleagues. You don't have to pull any punches with me. I can handle everything. I'm not looking for special treatment. But if I were to say I wouldn't debate her, I think that would be a legitimate problem, and it's very frustrating. I pull over on the side of the road all the time and take interviews. I pull over and do Zoom interviews. I have not turned down any interviews. So I'm trying to be really, really accessible, not just to the media, but to the public in Virginia. She is campaigning from her basement. When she comes up out of her basement, it's usually to talk to union folks or, people who are likely to vote for her anyway. And they don't seem to have a problem with that. The lack of accessibility, the lack of candor. Whether you like me or not is irrelevant. The journalists should want to have access to the elected officials. And I don't think you should get a promotion to lieutenant governor of the state if you're not willing to make yourself available for questions for the public and from reporters.
Well, we're going to post the debate on our social media, and we want people to hear it. But to give a sort of Reader's Digest version, if people listen to the debate, what are some of the key differences they will find between you and State Senator Hashmi?
Oh, well, they're pretty significant differences. I'm a mainline conservative. I'm a pretty unique candidate because I'll just be honest with you. I don't know if people have read this or not. It's not the biggest deal in the world to me, but it's worth noting. I'm the first openly gay candidate in the history of Virginia to run statewide, Republican or Democrat.
Can I ask you a question? Can I ask you a question real quick?
Yeah.
In your meetings and one-on-one interactions with Republican voters, has anybody cared that you're openly gay?
Well, some people do. I think there's some evangelical Christians who were kind of shocked. They bought into some of the stereotypes, so I break those stereotypes. And there is a moral tug of war for some folks about whether they can support me. But when they go through the checklist of the things they care about, freedom of religion, the freedom of your church to preach what you want to preach, your freedom as an independent contractor to take certain jobs or not take certain jobs, my feelings are one thing, but if I'm running for lieutenant governor, I'm not trying to be the associate pastor of your church.
Correct.
And I'm also not trying to tell you what to do. I'm running for this job because I believe in freedom in America and in Virginia, and that means I got to stand up for everybody's rights, whether I necessarily agree with your evaluation or your equation on things is irrelevant. I have to protect your rights. So I tell Christian conservatives, even if you are concerned about me in a religious context, I don't think you should be, but that's okay. If that's how you feel, I'm not going to argue with you. You should vote for me because I'm actually going to protect you. The Democrats want to force you to accept their analysis of faith and their analysis of what's good and what's bad. In addition, of course, they don't want to repeal any of the taxes. They want to increase the regulations. And this lady that I'm running against, Senator Hashmi, she is the self-described leader of the progressive movement. She wants the boys competing against girls in high school sports. She wants men in your locker room and a restroom if you're a woman. She's the person who wanted to keep the schools closed for an extra year during COVID. I mean, everything we are upset about that the Democrats have done, this one lady has been the forward tip of the spear for the progressive movement. I don't think she deserves a promotion. I actually think she shouldn't be at the Capitol anymore.
I want to go back to your debate that I rudely interrupted you about when you were getting into it. But how don't voters realize this about her? I mean, she's doing the things that basically elected Glenn Youngkin. What are voters not getting out there?
Both Abigail Spanberger and Ghazala Hashmi, my opponent, I mean, they are from the radical wing of the Democrat Party. Every leftist idea they have embraced, and yet they go out and pretend that they're somehow moderates. And it's incumbent upon me and, Winsome Sears to expose those differences. We want to get rid of the car tax, which is the most hated tax in Virginia. I used to advocate during COVID giving everybody a break for at least 3 or 4 months from the gas tax here in Virginia, because while the rest of the society was working from home, quote unquote, in their underpants, in their living room on computers, the real working people of Virginia still had to get their truck, and the prices were through the roof. But the Democrats refused to even give them a break on the gas tax for 3 or 4 months. This is the prime example of the difference between the modern Republican Party, which I would argue is looking out for the working people. It's one of the reasons Donald Trump did so well for them. And the Democrats who are beholden to a leftist set of policy agenda items, which are not looking out for the working people. They're really kind of oppressive and don't match up with the moral equation that a lot of Virginians believe in.
So going back to the debate, and folks, again, we're with John Reid. He is Republican running for lieutenant governor in Virginia. If you have family or friends in Virginia, make sure they get out and vote for John. He's a common sense conservative, a Reagan conservative. So all those who moan and groan about Trump realize that you got a Reagan conservative there as well.
I actually worked for the man.
Yeah. And
out in California, after he left the White House, I was his last press aide.
Were you really?
Yeah, it was an amazing job. Didn't pay anything. I was 22 years old at the time. But when I talk about being a Reagan conservative, that's what I mean.
I feel there's a book in there somewhere. But with John Reid, who's going to write a book on his being Ronald Reagan's last press aide, we got about 2 minutes left in this segment. What are a couple differences between you and her besides those you've mentioned, like on economic policy and taxes?
Well, there's a very huge issue that's coming up, and a lot of people aren't paying attention to it. It's called the right to work. Here in Virginia, we're the northernmost state on the eastern seaboard that has the right to work. That means if everybody around you wants to join a union, which is your business, not my business, I'm not here to tell you what to do. That's a common theme for me. I'm not here to tell you what to do. You can join the union. But if you're one of the people who doesn't want to join the union, in Virginia, you have the right not to join the union. You have the right not to have those union dues taken out of your paycheck every 2 weeks. You have the right not to sit down for a meeting with the union boss from New Jersey who is going to try to take over your company. If we get rid of the right to work, all of that goes away. And that is bad for the employee. But what's more important for everybody to understand is that's been the magic reason that governors like Glenn Youngkin, George Allen, Bob McDonnell, Jim Gilmore, all of the great Republican governors, and the Democrat governors used to agree, don't touch right to work. That's how we get companies to come to Virginia. That's how we get them to open a regional distribution center with, 500 employees, is the right to work being a part of the law in Virginia. And the Democrats have promised to do away with it. I mean, there's no ambiguity. I'm not making that up. That is what they plan to do. That'll kill the economic ecosystem of Virginia. That'll hurt workers. It'll hurt the state economically. And for some reason, these economic illiterate social justice warriors like Ghazala Hashmi either refuse to accept it or really don't care.
I don't think they care. We're with John Reid. John Reid, he's Republican candidate for lieutenant governor in Virginia. You can follow him on X at John Reid, R-E-I-D, 4 VA. We'll be right back for another segment with John. This is Breaking Battlegrounds.
Remember college? Well, now, college is over, and here comes your student loan debt. Is your private student loan debt keeping you up at night? You really need to talk to YRefi. YRefi refinances distressed or defaulted private student loans that others won't touch. They can save you thousands of dollars and get you a custom payment that you can afford. And they don't care what your credit score is. Don't let private student loan debt ruin your life. Call YRefi today.
Welcome back to Breaking Battlegrounds. I'm your host, Chuck Warren. In studio with me is Kiley Campbell. We are honored to have with us Republican Lieutenant Governor candidate from Virginia, John Reid. John is neck to neck with his opponent, liberal progressive Senator Hashmi. And John, something's happening interesting in Virginia that the Democrats out there have trying to do their best to imitate Gavin Newsom in California and go against the will of the people of Virginia on redistricting. What's happening? How real is this? How big's the threat?
Well, look, if you step back from what team you're on, team Republican, team Democrat, I get it. People are frustrated that the rules of the game from a redistricting standpoint are changing in other states. What's happening here in Virginia, though, is that we did what a lot of states wish they could do. We passed a constitutional amendment with a 2-to-1 vote in Virginia, where we took the partisanship out of the redistricting, at least as best you could. We sent it to an independent commission so that it wouldn't be decided by the politicians themselves. The same people, you don't want the politicians drawing their own lines. I get it. That makes sense. I agree. So that's what we did. We took it away from the partisanship. And now the Democrats in Virginia, during the middle of the campaign, right here with 1 week to go, they're calling all the legislators back to the Capitol. Guess what? Including the Republican who's running for governor. So she has to leave the campaign trail. Tell me that's not calculated.
Exactly.
Tell me that's not dirty tricks. She has to leave the campaign trail and come back to the Capitol to preside over the state Senate while the Democrats attempt to overturn the will of the people. And they're trying to act like, oh, we're just responding to what the other states are doing. You know what? This is Virginia. We passed a constitutional amendment. The will of the people has been expressed. The voice of the people is on record now. And I think people are not going to respond well to having what they intended overturned at the last second before a big election. And with this nefarious plan to take all the Republicans off the campaign trail. Now, the good thing is I'm not in the legislature. So I'm going to be campaigning 3 times as hard over the next week on behalf of everybody else. And I'm going to expose this dirty trick so that everybody knows.
Do you think voters know about this?
Well, it's getting out there, but it's a little complicated. You know, I mean, this took me 2 minutes to explain it. It's not a simple.
It's not an elevator pitch. It's not an elevator pitch.
I think some people also are mad about Texas and North Carolina and other states, so they think, oh, well, what's good for them we should do here in Virginia. No, I always hold Virginia to a higher standard than any other state. We are the birthplace of American liberty. We have a standard to uphold, and we did years ago what these other states say they want, which is take the politics out of it. So it's really disingenuous to act like you're speaking on behalf of the people when what you're doing is it's a naked power grab that's happening right now, and I think it stinks.
We're with John Reid, Republican candidate for lieutenant governor in Virginia. He is running against liberal progressive Democrat Senator Hashmi. So she's done a couple votes that are amazing. She voted to give tuition and licenses to illegal aliens. How has she responded to the criticism of that?
She won't talk about it. She won't talk about it. And the press isn't asking her about it. So I'm the one that's got to spend what little money I have trying to expose that type of corruption. And let me tell you, the Democrats want Virginia back. This one woman has raised $5 million, probably more than that now. And it's all kind of cloaked from different groups in D.C., so we don't know exactly where it came from. It's the Lieutenant Governors Association, whatever that is, in D.C. And Republicans had better step up their game here in the last week, not just in Virginia, but across the country. This is going to set the tone for the midterms for Congress next year.
100%.
Whatever happens here in Virginia, you know the headlines are going to be either trumpeting a success or heralding additional failure. So that's one reason why, as exhausted as I am, because I started this campaign on January 27th, and I have not taken a day off since, and I am tired. But I got to fight for my home state, because if we lose these protections and if we see another round of bad laws come into place, it's going to be almost impossible to repeal the bad laws, and I'd hate to think of what the state would look like if that transpires.
Folks, we have John on Zoom, and I'm telling you, if we all look this good, being as tired as he is, you're a lucky person. State Senator Hashmi also voted to reduce penalties for assaulting a police officer. Can you tell us about that?
Oh, listen, she is so anti-cop, it's unbelievable. And again, she won't talk about it. But, you know, if you assault a police officer, there used to be serious consequences. She has systematically joined with the most leftist regime within the state Senate to try to reduce all the penalties. I mean, that's just one of the things she's done. One of the other things she did was vote for a bill that would go back and recalculate everybody's time in jail. And I was just in the county jail here doing a tour of the drug rehab program. Very interesting. I'll tell you about it sometime. I want to be open-minded and thoughtful about how we can help people who have made a mistake in life get back on the right path. But what I'm not willing to do is take violent criminals, people who've already committed a murder, who've already committed a rape, recalibrate their time and put them back out on the street early. And one of the horrible things that has happened just in the last 5 years, since 2020, when Ghazala Hashmi voted for this criminal justice reform, which was anything but, we've had 53 Virginians killed now by people who were let out early. 53. Now,
over what period of time? Over what period of time?
Just in the last 5 years.
Oh my gosh.
In the last 5 years. I mean, we warned people this is not a good plan. You know, okay, somebody steals a cell phone. All right, we'll let them out early. I'm not going to fight with you over that. But no, my God, if you're committing violent crime, and we want violent crime to stop, we have to punish the people who do it, and we have to send a signal to the people who are on the bubble there that we're not tolerating it. And we messed it up with the Democrat leadership twice now. And now there are 53 Virginians who didn't need to be dead who are. I think there should be political punishment for these people having such bad ideas that they push through, even when responsible leaders say, stop, let's negotiate this. They wouldn't negotiate a damn thing.
But
they
how,
just pushed it on through.
John, we've got 2 minutes left here. Let me ask you, so much to talk about with you, but let me ask you this. You have been a anchor, a reporter for 2 decades. What has surprised you being on the campaign trail versus what you thought you knew as an anchor and as a news reporter?
Well, when I started in television, I was in Waco, Texas, and then I came back here to Richmond, the state capital. It was a very robust press corps covering campaigns and legislation. And, there was a real interest in that civics aspect that you can only find in a state capital. And so many people have left the profession. No offense to the new people, because I was very young when I started too, but you have a lot of people who, don't have the institutional memory that's probably necessary to cover these races appropriately. And a lot of them appear to be kind of all-in advocacy journalists from the left. And that's frustrating because I do there's no candidate in Virginia who's spent more time talking to the reporters than I have. And that's because in general, I try to start out respecting reporters, and I want to be open to the public, and I want to demonstrate that. And so the fact that they don't want to cover significant issues, not just partisan issues, but significant issues, is really frustrating for me. And we won't survive if we don't have a robust debate over ideas and a fair debate over ideas. One thing about me is I want to be fair with everybody, and I hope I've lived my life that way, and I've demonstrated it in this campaign, I hope.
John Reid, thank you for joining us, folks. You can learn more about John Reid at johnreidforvirginia.com. You can also follow him on X. John, go out there, have a great week, and we wish you the best of luck.
Thank you. I really appreciate the time to talk to you.
Thank you. Breaking Battlegrounds will be right back. Welcome back to Breaking Battlegrounds. We're honored to have with us again our friend Gary Gygi. He is the president of Gygi Capital Management. You can find him at gygicapital.com. Gygi capital with an A.com. Don't mess up your O's and A's with capital, folks. Gary, welcome back to the show, buddy.
Good to be here. Thanks, guys.
All right. So I don't know where to start in this economy. The one thing with Trump, you wake up every day and nothing's boring, right? You sort of one day, I think, Kiley, you and I were talking about a couple weeks ago, just like, just be nice to have a boring day, right? And nothing's boring about this man. So now he's in China. Sounds like we have a framework for an agreement, things of those nature. But something that really would be helpful for Americans, for the construction industry, everything, is if the interest rates got lowered.
Absolutely.
Do you feel we're going to see a 0.5 cut, or what do you think's going to happen?
Yeah, so a 0.5, which is 0.5%. No, Chuck, I don't. And I think that we're probably going to get 0.25 point. We call that 25 basis points. And so historically, the Fed has moved incrementally. When it raises interest rates, it does it by 0.25 point each time, usually. Same thing when they're lowering rates. It's usually 0.25 point. If they're doing more than that, that can spook the market.
Oh, okay.
And so right now, the market is expecting there's like a 96% probability, the market says, that we're going to get a 25 basis point or 0.25 point reduction this week. If we were to get 0.5 point, the market could get freaked out because it thinks, things are worse than what we think.
Great point.
And so now the market would probably sell off thinking that the Fed is behind the curve. If it's 25 basis points or 0.25 point, I think the market takes that in stride and just goes, okay, we may not need it, but we want this. And so we're probably gonna rally. And so small stocks in particular, probably gonna rally the most, just because small companies have to go to the public lending areas in order to fund their businesses all of the time.
Right.
So if all of a sudden they're borrowing at lower rates, that's going to make them a more profitable. So assuming we get 25 basis points, 0.25 point, I think small caps rally hard. and the other stocks will probably rally as well. If it's 50 basis points or half a point, my feeling is the stocks probably sell off.
That is a great point, and it makes a lot of sense, especially since we supposedly have a China trade truce.
Yes.
The S&P's rallied 1% today, and it's probably going to close over 6,800 for the first time. So,
looks like it. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a big deal, right? So,
Yes.
what do you think would be an orderly reduction by the Federal Reserve on the interest rate? Do you think eventually over 6 months to a year, what do you think they should do, and what is basis what you think they should do and what is possible?
Okay, so the market does a really good job of predicting stuff like this. So right now, the market is expecting a quarter of a point this week. It's also expecting another 1/4 point reduction in December. So that's a half a point before the end of the year. It's expecting another half of a point perhaps by next June. So within the next 9 months or so, then the market is expecting a full 1% drop in interest rates. They could be wrong, but right now that's what the markets are telling me is a full percentage point by about next June.
And what does that mean for economic growth, a full percentage point, if done by next summer?
Yeah, so obviously the equity markets are going to love that, and so it's like a tailwind on the stock market because you lower interest rates. And not just the small companies, but everyone's profitability increases. So you'll see a nice rally in stocks. Now, who's not going to like this very much are the savers.
Sure.
And so, because it means that people that have their money in savings accounts and CDs at the banks are earning less on their money, and so they're the ones that will probably be unhappy. I'm assuming mortgage rates will come down, but the Fed doesn't control the 10-year Treasury. So when they lower interest rates, they're lowering the shorter term. And interesting thing, Chuck, the last 2 times that the Fed has lowered interest rates, mortgage rates really didn't come down that much.
No.
They stayed right where they were. And lately the market has pushed rates down, which means that people were buying bonds and the yield went down. So I am hopeful that the market would respond positively over the next year to lower interest rates. Therefore, mortgages become more affordable and people start buying homes more. That's the best case scenario.
Gary Gygi, president of Gygi Capital Management. You can follow him at GygiCapital.com. Again, that's GYGI Capital with an A.com. Gary, thanks a million. Have a great weekend, buddy.
Have a good day, guys.
Appreciate you.
Soon.
Thanks a lot, buddy.
Bye.
This is Breaking Battlegrounds. We'll be right back with Anna Giaritelli at the Washington Examiner.
Remember college? Well, now, college is over, and here comes your student loan debt. Is your private student loan debt keeping you up at night? You really need to talk to YRefi. YRefi refinances distressed or defaulted private student loans that others won't touch. They can save you thousands of dollars and get you a custom payment that you can afford. And they don't care what your credit score is. Don't let private student loan debt ruin your life. Call YRefi today.
Welcome back to Breaking Battlegrounds. For our final segment on the show today, we have a friend of the show, a great reporter with the Washington Examiner, Anna Giaritelli, and she covers the border for the Washington Examiner. She's been there over 60 times, and she also has a book coming out next year. First, Anna, welcome back to the show.
Thanks so much for having me.
So you have a piece out today that Trump is building a smart wall on the border. What does that mean?
Yeah, the wall it's Trump 2.0. It's taken a step up. This one is smart, right?
Right.
During the first Trump administration, we saw over 700 miles of wall funded, about 450 completed. A lot of what was built was the wall, right? But the technology side of things wasn't completed by the time Trump left office. And then President Biden canceled the remainder of the contracts and what was supposed to be finished. And so even in the 4 years between Trump's first term and second term, technology has changed. You and I both know that. AI
Right.
is now in regular Americans' lives. And so now they are adding in not just the roads that are necessary, the lighting, but technology that would blow your mind, a lot of machine learning. So stuff that even 4 to 8 years ago would be fading out now, not as relevant. And so that is what makes this whole process, in addition to adding a lot more physical barrier, 18 to 30-foot steel wall, adding in a lot of the smart technology. So it makes it go beyond just a barrier, but something that really works for agents and helps them do their job.
Repeat for our audience again, how many more miles of wall do they plan to build in his first term?
Trump promised to finish the wall. He wanted to. They have about 300 more that was funded and not completed. This time, they've been able to put $5 billion towards this new project going on. They're not going to finish the wall, but they will have technology across the entire 2,000-mile southern border, which is a lot more than we have right now.
By the way, how is the border right now? We talked about earlier this year that he had basically shut it, but we expected a major push in the spring and September and March and April. How is it going? How are crossings going?
We did. I was stunned this spring. I gave the cartels a few months to kind of keep their eyes on things with the Trump administration just taking office, but we didn't see that surge that we even expected to see. The number of people who are crossing the border illegally and being caught by Border Patrol are at 55-year lows. So back to 1970s, the last time we saw this few people being apprehended. We're seeing roughly between 5,000 and 10,000 arrests at the southern border every month. During the Biden administration, we were seeing 100,000 to 250,000 arrests per month. So
Wow.
It's a huge, huge drop-off.
So we have gone as a country, and the Trump administration has pushed hiring more ICE agents. They've given a lot of type of bonuses and pay your college tuition, and they've had roughly 175,000 people apply to be a ICE agent. And I'm sure there's a lot of good people, but there's been a report that they have hired people with criminal backgrounds. How does this happen?
I looked into the report, and it's true on its own, but I looked into it just to figure out some more answers, and it is true. What I couldn't figure out, even from the folks I spoke with at ICE, was who's to blame for this? Was it within ICE, the hiring, or is it within the entire government, the hiring and vetting process? Who's to blame is the entity within the massive federal government who is doing the vetting or the lack thereof. These are people who are not disclosing criminal histories and such in their applications. These people are being sent through very quickly and hired. This is at a time where you have 175,000 applicants for ICE. You have 10,000 job openings. So you should be able to take the very best of the best and get them through training and out into the field in the next year. Instead, what we've seen are, like you said, people with criminal histories, various problematic pasts, being brought right into Flexi, which is where ICE new officers and agents train before they're put out to the field and then sent home. In one case, I heard of a guy who was about 375 pounds.
Oh my gosh!
And he came to the academy, and they said, "Can you do the challenge course? Can you do this?" And he couldn't. And so they said, "Well, you're going back home." Another case I've heard of someone in a wheelchair showing up at the academy, and they said, "We can't make an accommodation for this." And so those are simple things where there was clearly no one brought in to do a job interview. Because, one of the important factors as a law enforcement officer is you have to be physically fit. You have to be able to, a lot of cases, run after or just, be in a position to be able to run after someone.
I think if I had a criticism of the Trump administration, and I love the speed they're moving at things, that sometimes you need to count to 10 before you enact certain things. And this seems like this process on hiring. Let's count to 10, make sure, because what he is doing, half the country is very upset about, a third are absolutely maniac about it. And you just need to make sure that these people have a clean background, that it does not bring a disservice to what ICE is really trying to accomplish. And they just hurt themselves when they rush these type of things through. All right. So
Exactly.
you last time we had you on, you shared a very heartbreaking story about us, how you were sexually assaulted in D.C. a couple years ago, and now you have a memoir coming out, Under Assault, a crime reporter's true story overcoming sexual trauma and exposing injustice. Folks, this book will come out April 4th, 2026. We will have copies to send to our listeners. And that's the anniversary of the attack. What made you come to that decision to print this book, to print your story, and what do you hope is accomplished with the book?
Yeah, my publisher thought I was kind of crazy, but also, to pick April 4th. I said, well, what better day to take back than a day that's been a horrible day in my past and that's
Right.
now getting a new meaning. Yeah, the point in writing the book was I really see myself as a tree for the forest, as a sexual assault victim.
Okay.
Even sexual harassment is so prevalent. And as a crime victim, to have what happened to me and have my attacker released from jail 5 times immediately before we went to trial, and then have my case not included in D.C. police stats, even though the man who attacked me was sent to federal prison. I think my story is one that so many people can relate to in different ways, unfortunately. And the more we talk about it, the more that people see, I too have a similar story, or this has happened to me, or I didn't know I wasn't being counted here. And, it's something that also is a story of redemption and grace, and being able to, my faith in Jesus Christ has been a huge part of my journey and moving forward. And there is redemption and there is a better life after something terrible happens to you. And that's one of the other messages in the book.
As you've reflected upon that horrible moment, what is something about it that you have a better view of, a better hindsight of? What did you learn about yourself?
I think it was the moment after the attack, the hours after that was worse than the attack. It was me realizing I really believed that bad things were meant to happen to me. This is in the book, but I was sexually assaulted as a 17-year-old. That same week, about 17, 18 years, 13 years earlier. And so when this assault happened, I came back to my apartment, gave the police my clothes, sitting in my apartment by myself, kind of like, well, now what, And it hits me that this is something terrible that also happened to me 13 years ago, the same week in April.
Oh, my gosh.
And so the story I began to tell myself was, bad things are coming for me. I'm not a lucky person. I'm not, just is not good. And what I took from it and been able to reframe, through therapy and then knowing my identity as someone that God created was, no, bad things are not coming for you,
No.
But believe the truth, and looking at how this was the worst day of my life, right? And it's being used for something better and bigger. And I'm in such a different place than I was, 5.5 years ago. And I can say that now, but it's taken certainly a lot of pushing through to get to that place. But it's wonderful to be able to truly believe there is no bad thing coming. This is, this is the life you make it, really.
There's over 400,000 women who are sexually assaulted, abused annually in the United States, and that number is much higher because these are only those who report it. Based on your experience, what can law enforcement and the legal system do to make this, it's never easy, but to help women who have been through this?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think in my case, charging the defendant with as serious a charge as you can matters. So not pleading it down, not getting less time, those things matter. I think, special victims and sexual sex abuse crime, those teams within police departments who take it really seriously and want to see those people put away. But a lot of the times their hands are just tied by the courts. And so I think one of the ways that police departments can help the public understand that this is, like you said, it is the most underreported crime of all types of crimes, is to include those stats, right? So my assault was a third-degree sex abuse crime. In D.C., they include sex abuse crimes on the police stats that are first degree and then some second degree. So it looks like over the past year, you've had 50-something sexual assaults in D.C., which out of 800,000 people, you and I know that's not possible.
No.
And so, yeah, so when you're watering down the stats, you're not you don't need to validate, but you're taking away, this was a horrible encounter I went through. And I think the idea that, oh, it's only bad enough if it was rape, or if it's only bad enough if it was this, takes away from how dehumanizing it is to have a man hurt you as a woman in that type of way. And so I think police departments can really better serve the people who pay their salaries by including all those types of sexual abuse charges and crime incidents and stats. Because otherwise, why are we arresting and prosecuting someone if it's not going to be included in the crime stats at the end of the day?
We're with Anna Giaritelli. She is a reporter for the Washington Examiner. She is coming out with a book in April, Under Assault, a crime reporter's true story overcoming sexual trauma and exposing injustice. Anna, we've got about 90 seconds left here. What do you want people to get out of this memoir?
I'm finishing the book right now. I signed a book deal in September. We just announced it, and I'm finishing the book, and that exact question is what I've been writing through. I'm not trying to start some new Me Too 2.0. I would love to see women support women more. I would love, in a dream world, I would love to see police departments say, you know what, from now on, we're putting all the stats out there. We're putting all degrees of felonies on our charts. We're not going to downplay what's happened to victims because it wasn't as severe as others. And I'd like to see, sexual assault and harassment. These are things I think as women, we just assume, well, we're going to be harassed. It's going to happen. Or I was assaulted, but I was at a party, so I don't know. Maybe
Right.
It wasn't his fault. Those are the things I want to see women say, no, this isn't okay, period. This is just not okay.
It's never okay. It's never okay.
And see the culture shift towards it. Yeah, I appreciate that. Yeah.
Well, Anna, thank you for joining us. We look forward to having you again on the show soon. And, of course, we would love to have you back in April to talk more about the book that you're working and finishing. Thank you for your bravery. We appreciate you. This is Breaking Battlegrounds. You can follow us at breakingbattlegrounds.vote. And for those who loved your time with us today, the podcast is coming out for extra bonus stuff. Have a great weekend.